Don't laugh at me.
There we go. We're off mute and we're live.
Okay, let's go. Hello everyone and welcome back to our live stream. Today we do have a developer versus recruiter. It's going to be more constructive than it sounds, trust me. But let's go around, introduce ourselves, and we'll give you an agenda of what we're going to talk about. So I will go last. Let's start with the recruiter. We'll be nice to you now because in a minute we won't be. But this is Kate. Kate's awesome, and I met her at a webinar, a tech webinar. And yesterday she went to Pi Data event, which is amazing. So please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hey guys, so I'm obviously a recruiter. I work in computer science and sort of big data and analytics. My specialization is Python developers and data engineers. And my colleagues are doing data scientists and machine learning engineers.
Awesome. Shall we have one pet hate from each person? So what's one pet hate with your day job? Let's just start honest from the beginning.
I don't want to get too much, so you go first.
Okay, so. Well, I don't need to say too much. I mean, Eddie and myself, we do a few of these streams for anyone that's been following us, has seen us before. Obviously, quickly on the background, as far as looking at CVs goes, I've been directors of companies, working as interim IT directors, tech leads, solution architect, software architect. I've done pretty much everything you can in IT. So I hate looking at CVs. I suppose you could say it is a bit of a pet hate because I look at so many of them all the time and they become a bit of a blur sometimes. So having ones that stand out becomes quite a good factor, I guess, as I talk about it. But probably my biggest pet hate for my day job is meetings. That has to be my biggest pet hate with my day job. Okay,
so are interviews included in meetings or are they separate?
No, interviews are separate. I quite like meeting new people. So the interview, actually doing an interview with someone, can be quite fascinating.
Okay, awesome. So if you're to be next to my pet, or you want to jump in?
Yeah, go. No,
okay, let's do it. So, you probably recognise me. I'm always the one that's talking. I'm Eddie. I'm a software engineer, startup founder. Done a whole raft of things over the last 15 years. It's been quite exciting, and I won't bore you with that now. But if you do have any questions at any point, don't forget to write it in the chat below. My pet hate. See, I'm like Andrew. I do love meeting new people. I do love chatting to people. What I pet hate is when people just lie. I think that's just a real pain. When we all embellish the truth ever so slightly, but a positive spin on it. But when they just all out lie, they come to an interview and you give them a test and they can't even write their name. Okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but you kind of get what I mean. So that's my pet hate. So I would like to, rather than say interview 30 people, I'd rather interview 10 that I want to connect in on LinkedIn because I think they're actually really good people. Yes, we might only have 2 or 3 roles. Can't hire all 10, but I'd like to be able to hire maybe 8 out of the 10 in an ideal world. So yeah, that's my pet hate, but I will go into more details soon. Transparent, truthful is what I need, just honest and yeah. Anyway, enough of me. Kate.
Okay, I hate to be a bit of a copycat, but you kind of stole my thunder there. I would say my biggest pet peeve with developers is dishonesty. And it comes that it's not just about skill set, because believe it or not, most of the time when you qualify a candidate and you have a conversation with them, they will tell you the truth. They might tell you the truth very subtly and it might not be very obvious for someone who doesn't do it every day, but you basically can easily judge how skilled someone is in every area. I mean dishonesty in terms of what they've got going on and what they want. I think for some people, especially some of the junior developers, it's quite difficult in the beginning because they haven't seen that many companies. They're new to the industry, so they don't really know what they want yet, which is why it's so important for us to put them through processes with a few companies so they can really figure it out. But I think as you get more senior, the expectation is that you do actually know what you want and something more specific than I want to work on exciting products. There is a lot of different exciting products they can be working on. So I think for me, the biggest frustration is people who are either dishonest about what they want or they really have no idea, and you're trying to work out with them to collaborate so then you can actually find them things that they enjoy doing and will like and will want to go to interviews and will commit to you. But if they're not honest, then you can't do that. And I think one more would probably
get it out there.
The last one, and it's kind of a side effect.
Yeah.
So as you continue with the relationship and you kind of develop a relationship with the candidate, sometimes they will just they will ghost sometimes, and
really?
And I get it, but I think if you're working with a good recruiter, they will not give you a bad time for accepting a different role. As long as you're honest about what's happening, it's about the long-term relationship. So look, if you don't like the job spec and they're sending you in for an interview, just say you don't like this job or you're not interested in that. Instead of like kind of being like, oh maybe, or yeah sure, send my CV, but you've not really looked at it. So then you've got 100, recruiters calling on the phone and you've accepted a role you've not told anyone. So I think it just makes it so much easier if both the candidate and the recruiter just have very honest discussion about, okay, this is what you want, this is what I can get you, this is what I can't get you, and then you've got trust, and it can hopefully last for years, not just that one time to speak together. Yeah.
I'm gonna put up one more pet hate. I'm gonna join. I'm gonna jump on the train, on the bandwagon. Sorry.
Oh dear.
But I'm gonna turn the table, and I wanna kind of direct it at you actually, at recruiters. But you're the only recruiter here, so you're gonna get it. Okay. Well, actually, I've got so many coming to mind all of a sudden. All those bad memories are coming back. But okay, I picked my top one or two. One is, why do recruiters always have to phone? Like, do you get what's the word? Not credit or value.
Statistics or judged on.
Yeah, judged on how long you're on the phone for how many people you call, because I seriously can't understand why no recruiter for 15 years can understand. Please drop me an email, don't call.
Really interesting question. Is this from a hiring perspective? So you're
both.
You're a hiring manager and you're working with a recruiter.
Both sides. Like, it's just one thing that they can't seem to understand. Oh, but phone's easier. For you maybe, but not for me.
Well, this also can be really awkward. If you're in a meeting, right? As someone that's hiring someone, you're in a meeting. You might accidentally not have you might have forgotten to put your phone on silent, for example. You don't always remember. You might be expecting a call, so you've had it on not silent.
Okay.
And then you go into a meeting, potentially with important people, and your phone's busy going off. So everyone suddenly looks at you and go, oh, and you're like, oh, bloody recruiter again. I've said to them earlier, I'm in meetings this afternoon, why are they calling me?
Yeah, they're also with the phone, right? I know that the recruiter probably wants an answer back immediately, but whereas an email, you can be in the middle of something and you can check the email kind of 15 minutes later when it's at the kind of the right, your convenience, and it's only going to delay the process marginally. There's more asynchronous rather than synchronous.
Okay, so I have a solution for that.
Don't
Taking what you said.
Okay, I know what your solution is. Go on, say it.
Put your phone on silent.
And I'm not getting paid for any sponsoring or anything, but Calendly is the answer to all your troubles. Right, I get where you're coming from. You can't always have a conversation with the hiring manager. In an ideal world, you will.
At the beginning, I understand. I'm not talking about the initial conversation. I think once you're getting, the process is moving.
There's a few things happening, and it depends on the recruiter, okay? If you're quite efficient, I can have a 5-minute call with you, and you can tell me everything about the last, 3 candidates I've sent you, and the feedback you give me over the phone, and I can qualify. You can be like, okay, this didn't work, and I can just ask you a second question, a follow-up question, to really understand, okay, what didn't work. If I find another CV that's a little bit like this, will that work? And you'd be like, yeah. Or no.
That's a fair point.
And it's just quicker that way because I'm able to ask you a follow-up question. So it's not because we're trying to be your best friend. Although,
right, okay. You do try.
Although I do try to be good friends with the people I work with, but it's more about really understanding the feedback.
I think that's a fair point, but as Andrew was saying, we're so busy trying to do meetings, trying to lead the team, trying to code as well, because we love coding at heart, right? We want to code as much as possible. But doing an email for us is easier than just kind of getting phone calls, and it's just the timing's always awkward. The phone call is never at the right time. Sort of, right?
It's also doing things in batches, right? If you've just interviewed someone, generally, let's say 10 minutes after interview, probably the candidate's just gone out the room, call the recruiter, say, oh, I thought that was really good, have I got any feedback? And then you get a call 2 minutes later from the recruiter going, oh, how was that person? You could be gone straight into another interview with the next candidate, who knows? But generally batch things together as well, I suppose. So at the end of the day, perhaps, maybe if you're hiring, I think I've probably done it in the past, I say, look, every day we'll have a call at 5 o'clock just to summarise the day, rather than just go through willy-nilly during the day saying, oh, got something to say now, how was this, how was that?
God. And tell you what, we hate chasing you.
No, absolutely, I can imagine.
Hate it.
It's a lot of phone calls, the voicemails all the time, and
I hate it, and I think the best way it's always just about honesty, so working out how your relationship's going to work. If you guys have meetings all day or certain things, you have to, as a recruiter, your job is to figure out how to make it convenient for both sides. Exactly. So that, for me, I would rather know when you can
Yeah.
take a 5-minute call and just be like, okay, this guy's interviewed, because we have to keep you up to date.
I think it's setting up that
well.
relationship at the start.
Yeah.
Everyone's so keen, especially when you end up working with 2 or 3 recruiters on a job, which happens quite frequently. You don't always work with just one. Once you've figured out the good ones, and you might do, but then you start getting nothing from them, and you go, oh, I've got to go get someone else. So often you end up finding you've got 2 or 3 recruiters on the team, and they all want to be the one to get the role placed. They might know there's someone else trying to seek the role or whatever.
Yeah.
So there'll be a keenness there. You want to get the feedback straight away and make sure you're the one that wins the role. So there is an element, how do you balance that out? How can you work with more than one recruiter to fill a job without, again, upsetting the different people and making sure you get the right candidate? And sometimes you get the same candidate from both recruitment agencies.
You do, and that's quite difficult.
Do you mean one role, or do you mean multiple?
It could be one role, it could be multiple, it depends. I mean, there's been times, there was one time, I think, gosh, it's probably about 8 years ago now, when I had 40 jobs on the run, trying to hire 40 people simultaneously. And that was crazy. There was literally 8 recruiters involved because there were so many
For
jobs
3
to
months,
fill.
all we did was interview, literally, and I wanted to code. I mean, I was there with Andrew at that project, and it was really painful. It was hard. I think that really kind of, I really hate recruiting at the time.
That really made a difference. But you also learn different techniques and tactics, I guess, when you're doing such a big drive.
Maybe this is something that could be avoided with 2 things: working, really being selective and understanding which person do I want to work with, because it obviously if you're hiring 40 people, that's like a complete different scenario. But you've got one niche role and you have 5, I don't know how many agencies working it, or you have one recruiter that's going to fill that role in 2-3 weeks. Would you prefer to have a 5-minute conversation with the recruiter who's constantly giving you good CVs, constantly being on top of things, or would you rather? And that's why.
Yeah, and this is where it's difficult when you're in the industry. So as someone who hires people, it's not always me that initiates the conversation, let's say. So there may be a CTO or whatever, and they've set up the initial arrangement and said, oh look, I've got these couple of people, they're going to be sending over CVs, you need to just sort the role out, work with them. And you don't get to make the decision there. You don't get to say, well, this is the one I want to work with. Just forget the others. I'd rather get it from one person. So it's also getting that message across to all the different people involved.
Oh, really?
It's not always just us, that the people that are saying we're going to do it. We just become, you're going to engage with these people, get the job done, and we wanted to use 3 people or whatever for the job.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, okay, great, we've got 3 roles to fill, I'll just go sort it out.
Okay.
There's a mix. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So it depends on the place. I suppose as contractors ourselves, it's a bit different. If we're a permanent member of staff, we'd probably be a much stronger involvement. But a lot of days now, it seems like a lot of companies, well, I might be hiring perms, so I might be hiring a permanent person, but I may contract to myself, being asked, okay, you're the expert here, I want you to find someone as good as you effectively, these are the people we work with, make it happen type of thing. So yeah, there's another person in the room over here that I'm not sure. I'm sure he's got an opinion at the moment.
But we've got his CV to review, so it's going to be really interesting. We'll get that out shortly.
Yeah, I think you can save a lot of trouble by having a proper conversation in the beginning of the process and really explain to recruiters what they need to look for. And bear in mind, I work a really candidate short market where I'm basically really working the candidate. So these people go off the market so quickly that I need to really understand what it is that you want, so I can really work your own, deliver it fast. Because if I'm competing, bear in mind, if I'm competing with 10 other recruiters in a row,
we're trying to say you won't prioritise it. You want to go the ones that you want.
Which actually isn't the biggest issue for me, because like I said, competitive markets, I actually, likelihood is that they're not working with the same sphere of candidates that I'm working, because they have different route to market than me. But still, you have a lot of competition, people bombarding your CVs. If I'm going to prove to you that I'm the best recruiter of all of them, and I'm going to give you the best candidate, I need a little bit of investment of you actually, initial investment of you actually explaining it to me, because that, and also then selling the company, because it's all about, well, this candidate, I probably have them in with 5 different people, right? Yeah. Why are they going to choose your company?
Absolutely, there is that element as well that comes in.
Yeah, so
certainly the good ones, you've not got much time, and you've got to try to track them into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple of points in the chat. One is, Andrew, please stop shaking the table. Apparently you're shaking the camera. Oh, that was me that time. Okay.
Okay, I'm off the table.
I should have brought. I should have brought a bigger tripod for that camera as well. Sorry.
We need a
my
better
bad.
table. You picked a round one. That I think there are legs to this edge. but-
And who is the guest we have? So we have Kate with us, who is a recruiter. Don't throw eggs at your computer screens. She is one of. I'm defending
Are you
you.
serious?
Eddie has spent so far most of this stream just saying he hates recruiters.
I said
so-
don't. I said don't throw eggs, and I want to explain why. So last stream we had Anna, Katia, and I'm gonna get her name wrong. Leo something. Anyway, we had 3 awesome recruiters on the last stream, and this time we've got Kate.
A bad one, apparently.
No, who's a good one, and she, she goes to tech events, went to a Pi Data event yesterday, and we want to bridge the gaps between developers and recruiters. And today our agenda, which we didn't talk about yet, we're going to cover looking at some CVs, looking at some job postings
We need to get
online.
onto those soon because
It's already 7:15.
time's flying.
It is.
Yeah, that's
And we won't bitch too much in the moment. I apologise in advance. So that's the idea. So we mentioned the guest. We do have to have some other questions about how to join the open source community with Python and JavaScript. I think we'll do that towards the end because we'll look at some of the CVs which we promised to do last time and we didn't get around to doing.
So let's make sure we do
let's
that.
make sure we do those. And any questions you have, just ask in the chat and I will try and get around to them sooner rather than later. And also don't forget to give our videos a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe as well.
Add us on LinkedIn.
And add her on LinkedIn. I'm not a recruiter. I'm joking, add me as well. Add Anton, he's hiding behind the camera.
Actually, I have a question.
Sorry, we're not taking questions at this time. No, I'm joking, go on, ask.
So it's more from, so you guys have been discussing more from the hiring,
Yeah.
matching up with recruiters and things like that. But from a candidate point of view, the experience is slightly different, right? And I really enjoy talking to the recruiter because I get loads of messages where it's just like, oh hey, we've got this job, here's a brief description, can you send me your CV? And at that point, I just ignore it because they haven't made any effort in trying to get in contact with me. I don't know who they are. So actually having the initial conversation with them is a lot better for candidates.
But is this you approaching a recruiter because a job post you've seen, or they're coming to contact you?
Them coming to me.
I get stuff that when they come to me, they say, "Oh, you're ideal for this role." Da 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 da. Da, it's in .NET, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not bashing .NET today. That's a different stream." But I was like, "But you haven't read my profile because that's not what I've never done it. Never going to do
Right.
it." So I just delete, block, and I think I was saying before the stream started, I've removed as much as I can off my LinkedIn because of I've got 1,000 messages a day. Could you not? I took a screenshot, I shared it on Twitter. Well, we have messages and notifications. The numbers got so big every month they would overlap each other, and I was thinking this is ridiculous. I just literally just ignore everything now.
Well, I went
LinkedIn-
through a period about
You didn't
probably
ignore
2
my
years
message.
ago.
I know it didn't come through. It didn't come through as spam. So.
I think 2 years ago I went on LinkedIn and just deleted every recruiter I was linked to on there. So there was no recruiters. I was just getting a collection of, I probably had 500 recruiters I was linked to and about 300 people I actually have worked with. So I've treated LinkedIn for about a year as just only people I've actually worked with. And I'm starting to go back to allowing recruiters to be linked to me again a bit, but I'm being much more selective this time.
I'm at that
Because
same
at one
right
point
now.
I was just getting inundated with, oh, we're linked, are you interested in this? And it's not so bad these days, but I was probably getting, I wouldn't say 1,000, but probably 50-ish messages
Which
a day
is a
coming
lot,
on.
right? That's
Which
a
is a
lot.
lot of
Because
messages
it's
going
just
through.
as difficult for a developer to understand the value of a bad recruiter versus a good recruiter as it is for hiring managers.
Yeah.
Because all you see is a profile, right? It's not until you talk to someone that you really, does this person understand my market? Does
Sure.
this person understand my industry? Do they understand how what I do differs from the next developer? And things like that.
So okay, on that note, I know we're going to look at CVs. I do have a
Yeah.
question. So what makes, when you speak to a developer, let's give some feedback, not feedback, let's give some, I guess,
Guys.
actionable stuff to the audience. If we were on a call now, I can't get my phone so I'm using it to film, but
Yeah.
if we were on a call, what would make me stand out to somebody else? Like, what would make somebody stand out?
Okay, this is a really broad
Like,
question.
broad and generic.
On the phone.
Yeah. So if I applied to your job spec, ignoring the job posting, but if I applied to that, gave you a call, or you called me,
Okay.
I applied. What were kind of the questions you would ask me? What? Say it's a full stack role, doesn't matter too much about technology, but what would you ask me? What would you want to know, and what would make me stand out?
Well, I usually start with what you want.
Well, you're not holding the phone up to your head, dude. That's not
Kidding,
gonna work. I'm joking. Carry on. Sorry.
I usually start with making it about them, really, because if they want something that I can't even provide them with, which is unlikely because if I'm speaking to someone, it's usually because they're in my industry, they're a developer,
And they've applied to probably a spec or they've seen something.
Yeah. But they might want to only be talking to me because they want to completely change their careers. And certain things, if it's a close step, I can help them with.
Okay.
Some I can't. Or it's an impossible, they're giving me the purple unicorn, just like hiring managers give me the purple unicorn specs. The candidates give me, so they're saying, I want £100,000 a year, I want 4 days remote, I want to work from
unrealistic. You might get
Scotland,
one job a year that works out,
and I want the course to be very important to the humanity.
Right. But then people need to prioritise, right? They can't have everything.
Yes.
It's either money or it's convenience. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pick your priorities.
People
right?
will tell you
gotta have a
sometimes,
list.
like, it's the most difficult thing for people to figure out. They'll tell you things, but what is the really important thing,
Okay.
So that it does make someone stand out if they're like, this is what I'm interested in, but this is what's really important. This is going to be the deciding factor for me, this company versus this company. And so that's one thing. And then it just comes down to tech. So what you're really skilled at, and
but how do you validate the tech? So you specialise in Python, right?
Yes.
So I want to pretend I'm a Python developer. I'm not.
Okay.
So ring ring.
Hi.
Sorry. Hi, I'm a Python expert. I got 50 years experience. I'm only like 20, but I've got 50 years experience.
Okay.
I want this job. It's 180k, whatever. CTO. How would you how do you validate that? Obviously, you can.
What sort of questions are you going to start
wait,
asking?
so you want to be you are a CTO, or you want to be a CTO?
I've seen a job. It's advertising a CTO
advertising,
role.
yeah.
I've been a Python developer for the last 10 years, but I haven't
bit more
really, let's say.
realistic,
But I can see the job's offering 180,000 a year. I love to work with people. I love to work with tech. Yeah, I want to apply. How would you? What would then be the approach? I guess.
How would you filter that down?
I'm sorry, it's just like so many things. But do you see
I would
this
say I've
reaction
not
as
yet-
well?
I've not yet said anything about the detail, I guess, of what I'm actually doing. I've just said, I want the job, give me the job kind of thing, I guess, is the approach
It's
I come
very
in with.
interesting because my reaction is really overwhelmed just because you never get that. And the reason you don't get that is because you will struggle to find good Python developers sending emails. Okay, which is exactly why that's not my route to market anymore, because it's just it's modern, it's old-fashioned now. So relationships is the new innovation. So going to events is really
It's good to hear that.
Which is why you're attending more events, I guess. And that
yeah,
kind of
because it's so much easier and it's just more personal. Now in the world of technology, it's ironic because I can tech, but it's kind of the human touch that makes a difference.
Interesting.
So anyway, the reason I was overwhelmed was because first of all, I have never been sold to on the phone by I've been lied to, but like when you come at me with this kind of like, I'm the expert and I'm like, developers, good developers just don't talk like that. Like they might be very confident and sometimes even a little bit arrogant about what they can do.
Yeah. But the interesting thing that when you say that, I suppose, I'm just thinking from back on the recruiting side of being someone who's hiring, I've got a role to fill, and you pick up the phone to someone, the first thing you say to them, so tell me a bit about yourselves, why you want the role, they will spiel off that kind of thing to you, and I've had that so many times.
Okay, but that's because you're the
But
next stage,
different,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Because
But it's interesting that it's interesting the difference between how they approach to you versus when they're actually then talking to the people that are hiring. Because like you say, you get quite overwhelmed and go, whoa, hang on, that's not. Tell me where your interests lie. This is what I want to know, not tell me you're the person for the job.
Okay, I see where you're coming from, because then they would be at a different stage of the interview and they would actually try and say. So ideally, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of my job. So before they go into that interview, this is why we take time understanding your role in your company, so that actually when I have a conversation with him, I can be like, look, this is exactly what they work with. Think about how your skill set relates and how your ambitions relate, so that by the time they talk to you, they can talk sensibly, ideally, about it, and be like, okay, this is what I can do, this is what I'm interested in, and ideally they're not lying too much too.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
That is good,
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's
I
reassuring.
think
Okay.
there's improvement, not necessarily on the recruiter side, but on the candidate side to be made in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because candidates get a bit too eager, really desperate in some of the cases, perhaps.
How are you getting desperate candidates? Like,
Well, this is where the recruiting agents. As I say, I don't get to always pick the recruiters we work
A
with.
lot of our
I
clients
think
say you have to use this
yeah.
recruitment agency because they're our approved supplier. So
Yeah.
usually we get
Yeah.
told who it is, and
and they don't do very good at filtering a lot of these people. They just literally almost get a CV and send it straight on to you.
so I'm literally like shocked
Yeah.
because I don't get that attitude at all.
Okay.
No, I've never worked
interesting.
with a good developer who's desperate, absolutely desperate to get
Okay.
the job.
That's
They're
good to hear.
just
Though.
usually not
Okay.
that good because they have 100,000 people message them on LinkedIn every day. they practically don't have to. Like, if
But the problem
once
is
you
the
have
good ones.
commercial
They
experience,
go so quickly, I guess. A lot of the good ones, right?
yeah, they
So,
really do.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of the corporate companies, they're so slow to progress things.
Yeah.
They end up missing the good ones. So they might
Yeah.
say, okay, let's say a CV. I've got a job posting. The recruiter's received some CV, sent them over, and it probably takes 3 days to get back and say, right, these are the ones I want to talk to. By that time, half of those have probably already found jobs or something and already got. So you get that kind of flow. So by the time you actually see them, you're down to the. That's absolutely. Yeah, it is a fair point, but it's business, right? You can't do everything all the time.
We have a question which I think we can sneak in because it's a short one. Do you only deal with candidates from the UK?
Primarily, yes.
So if someone from abroad calls you, what sort of, I guess, would you immediately say no? Or
Oh no!
do
I mean,
you-
it all depends on which clients I'm working with at the moment, and their rights to work certain
Right,
places.
okay.
Guys, don't worry about Brexit. I don't think you have any reason to worry, even if
We
you're
do.
from anywhere in Europe, because we're gonna still need Python developers. But yeah, so it all depends on that. So there are some clients who will sponsor for very niche skill set, and that they are a bit of a rarity. So yeah, that's kind of.
Okay, so they should definitely apply, is what you're saying. And
No.
No?
If the job, so every job has a specification on it. If it says
Okay.
no sponsorship available,
Do they specify usually those sponsorship available?
most of the
Okay.
time, yeah. So you've got it right there, and
Okay.
there isn't really a lean one with that. I'm afraid.
Sure. If it doesn't specify either or, then is it worth applying or contacting?
or-
As it doesn't
If
say.
it doesn't say
it
anything,
doesn't say
yes or no. yeah.
Anything? Not really.
No.
No. I'm sorry. I've
Is
took
that-
out a lot of CVs from
is
countries
that-
yeah.
Is that outside the EU or is that still within the EU or just UK?
So
Sorry,
the
just to
reason why it's
clarify.
probably not worth applying is because the companies or the jobs that do sponsor will have it right there. Like
Right.
because they it's like kind of like a big perk because all of a sudden their audience is huge.
Okay.
So it'll be right there. Remote working.
Yeah, that's
Right?
the one I look for.
That's what people love, right?
That's
If
what
I
we
was a
do,
developer,
right?
I would love to work remotely.
1-2 days a week in London max, we do the rest
Yeah.
from home.
Yeah, great. Or we sponsor or whatever. They will have
Okay.
it right there. Besides, I mean, most of the people I work with are not remote anyway.
Okay. Yeah, someone just said that asked the question UK and US, they're quite tough, I think, to kind of break in from outside, I guess. You need to look specifically for sponsorship available.
Yeah, I mean, I've personally not come across a Python, but I've not come across many people in general from America who want to move over here.
No, sorry, from everywhere else in the world from...
It's expensive.
I mean,
everywhere else in the
no,
world...
why would you? Like, you can.
Yeah, it doesn't make that much sense.
No, anywhere else in the world to UK or to the States.
Yeah. So a lot of people from Europe, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And what we look at then is really the education because it's the easiest way of us finding out what they've been up to
Got
and
you.
how good they are in that specific country.
Okay. And another question is, as a Python or JavaScript developer, what skills required to get hired? I suppose that really depends on...
JavaScript and Python. Oh, we've got full stacker on. Make sure you're here on
It probably depends on the role, right? What skills are needed? Because if it's a senior role, it's going to need more years, more technologies. Whereas if it's junior, it's a bit more forgiving. You're smiling, so you're probably disagreeing with me.
No, I'm not. I'm not
That's
at
fine.
all. No, but if okay, so full stack. So I work a few of those roles. They are some of the most niche because they are so contract saturated. So people who work in frameworks like Django or Angular in JavaScript, and they also can do something like Python Django. Sorry, I said JavaScript. Sorry, I meant to say React or Angular.
I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing, looking at Andrew and laughing.
No,
so
but I'm
yeah.
glad you laughed because I was like, why am I saying yeah? Sorry, so React or any frameworks within
Okay.
JavaScript, and then they also are doing back-end Python in some framework, like for example Django,
Okay.
and those people are so rare in the permanent market.
Because they're contractors.
Yeah,
also.
because
They're
they're
all
rare, so
contracting,
they
yeah.
can just charge
yeah.
anything.
Okay.
But there are companies who need them, so yeah, when you come across a good one, it's just like purple unicorn.
Purple unicorn. Okay. Not just a unicorn. Purple unicorn.
Probably one of the
Okay.
toughest ones. to
Okay.
find.
That's good. That's interesting to hear. And do you find, you mentioned some contractors is quite saturated. Is that, do you mean the job market is saturated in terms of so many candidates, or there's a lot of roles that's saturated in the market? I'm guessing.
No,
candidates.
I mean, it's very difficult to find a person who's doing that full stack and the work in the permanent
Right.
app. Most of them are contractors, so you can find loads of contractors wanting to do it, but not so many permanents.
Okay.
And companies do need permanent people, so.
Fair enough. And we've been contractors for over 10 years, so it would always be a contractor.
A company that wants to grow and have a long life needs a mix. I think it's getting that balance on. I don't know what the right balance is, but I'd probably say at least half your staff you want to be permanent. Really, if you're going to have a long life for your company.
Yeah.
Otherwise, chances are if you're too concerned, you're not feeling stable enough. So I'd as a candidate probably beware if I was looking for a permanent job. Let's say, so I'm going to talk about permanent a bit more. So if you're looking for a permanent job, understand the mix in the organisation already. There's a lot of organisations that are almost 100% contractors, and that's because they're very risky, and chances are you won't have a long time job there, or you won't get the support from the people that are there either, because you need that kind of permanent network, I think, to get support as another permanent member of staff. I don't think many contractors, because they're brought in to do a job,
Yeah.
get enough time given to them for starters, but also in some respects they don't want to spend the time. They want to just get the job done, get it home effectively, I guess you could say. So if you're looking for a job, and understand the company a little bit as well, try and find the companies that have a decent base of permanent staff that will be able to mentor you, help you grow, and become in the future, whatever you want to be, I guess.
I'll be honest, I don't personally work with contractors.
No, of course.
But on my team there's loads of people who do.
Yeah.
In terms of developers, what I hear a lot is that they might be contractors, but they usually actually stay for like 3 years.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So, I mean, I'm a bit surprised to say, I guess it depends on the role, but I'm a bit surprised to hear about the turnover, because actually what ends up happening is you're basically paying people really high rates to stick in a company for about 3 years.
No, absolutely.
Which is longer than some of the people who are doing permanent.
The point is, I
irony,
guess,
isn't it?
yeah, for the permanent staff, as the permanents join, if you're joining to a contractor-heavy world, I think, as I say, you're not getting the support. So as a permanent member of staff, you're probably going for the permanent role because of probably one of three things, I guess. You're looking to either learn and improve your skill set, you're looking to build a career and become, I don't know, CTO, whatever it is in the future. Or maybe you're just looking for the security and the stability of the job. So, as you say, that security and stability is a bit interesting, because as a contractor, there's plenty of jobs out there where they get a project on, they bring contractors in thinking the project's going to last 6 months, but the project grows, or let's say the mix of the people on that project is wrong, so it ends up taking longer to deliver. So actually end up keeping, as you say, for potentially 3 years when the intention was only 6 months. So it might be the intention was short, but it ended up being long. But for the permanent staff, you're there looking for the long-term job. But if you're going into a heavy contractor world, you're not going to get the support around you. You might feel let down by that, and then as such you move on, try and find somewhere else, and then probably eventually you end up going contracting because you've had such a poor experience of being in a permanent job.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think another interesting thing, especially for people who are a little bit more junior, because obviously with contracting, you usually have to have some permanent experience and then
You would hope
build
so,
up your skills.
although
You
I've seen
don't-
plenty
you-
of contractors that have none, but yeah.
Okay, well, usually you don't usually see contract going back to perm. Like
Yeah,
sometimes,
absolutely.
but not
It's
so
rare,
often. It's
yeah.
usually you do perm, you do your time, you develop your skills, and then you go into contract. What I find is sometimes people, you have to really have the skills down and your contract for specific skills that you have for a contract. Whereas, in perm, especially if you're a bit junior, as you're developing from maybe mid to senior, you're able to develop skills in a bit of a more variety of ways, and maybe be exposed to shareholders or CTO or working with a plan or whatever. So you're less constrained. Whereas with contracts, my understanding is that because they're hiring you on the faith that you're good at this skill, you can't really branch out as much as you'd be able to when you're going into a role.
It varies by experience, I suppose. I look at Eddie and I say that and go, we spend a lot of time working with founders, CTOs, and helping them grow their businesses, and we end up
Okay.
getting involved in so many varied things. As a contractor these days, I probably wear about 10 hats on any one day.
Okay.
I don't feel like as a contractor these days you are as focused as it perhaps used to be. The market feels very different
I
because
think maybe when you're
there's such a lack perhaps of experienced permanent people out there that they go to the contractors for that knowledge maybe.
I think when you kind of get that more experience, you end up going a bit wider. Like we had a day last week, for example, where we're doing a bit of coding, we're doing a bit of architecture, we're doing a bit of what they call DevOps, sort of ops stuff.
We're working with designers, coming up with potential solutions for things.
Yeah, we're writing documentation, we're doing interviews for people to build another team for another project.
Quality
client.
assurance,
We're doing
deployment as you
testing.
say.
Yeah, there's just so many things we can do in one day that we actually probably only code about, I don't know, 30% of the day, which is sometimes quite painful, but it goes up and down, swings and roundabouts, right?
You sit in meetings doing management reviews, saying how the statistics on the project doing. Yeah, I mean, we end up doing a huge varied job, but I think, as I said, it depends a bit. There are a lot of contractors, probably 80% out there, that are very much, as you say, they do that particular thing. But I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. I think as a contractor you can, I guess it's that lifestyle, right? Or the experience you get as you progress through your career. Let's say you've got 5 years experience, you're probably doing more I'm very good at this job, I will do that job. Once you get to kind of the 15-year point, then you're starting to say, well, actually I've worked in so many different areas, I can support you in whichever area you want, whether that's recruitment, whether that's business
15 years
advice.
behind you. That's like a whole different
It is
story.
it is a different world.
I was talking
Yeah.
about people who maybe have 4 years.
Yeah,
about
exactly. So I think
5
that's
years.
very much now you're in that focused work now.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
and I think that's
don't,
what people
I've
need to
not
understand
come
as
across
well.
that many people because I don't work
Yeah.
the contract world.
Of course.
So yeah.
But yeah, the permanent
No.
world, the juniors, you're very much right. Yeah, they're looking to learn one particular skill and then move on to learn the next skill and the next skill, and it takes time to build up that portfolio of different areas you can jump across. Really.
That's really true.
Should we look at some CVs?
Let's look at some
Okay,
CVs.
really good questions. We want people want to send in their CVs. I said if you do want to send in your CV, send it in, but we won't review it this time. We'll review it next time because we'll need to anonymise it and make sure that we remove all your personal details. And probably don't want to do that in a live stream and make a mistake.
Yeah.
And
So
let
we
the
have some
home address.
CVs, and we've
We do have
hopefully,
some.
as far as possible, redacted anything that was important out of them or identifying. But there will be a few things in there, I'm sure. Just nothing too obvious.
Remove all my bits, but it's okay. I'm going into a so you can talk about my stuff.
Should we do
We
yours
could
first?
start
Which
with
one,
start
yeah,
first,
sure.
yeah.
Can I ask which one?
I'll bring it up on my
I've
screen
got it
now.
up on, yeah.
Yes, so I was just writing outside the EU is hard to get a job in the UK. Yeah, that's correct. A couple of people asked that. Okay, so let me switch to, let me get your CV up. Anton, here we go.
Be gentle.
Make it full screen. Now I want to be ruthless.
Well,
honest.
so that's from last year.
And then if I go back
I haven't
here
updated that in a while.
and share, I think it's this one. Yes. So hopefully everyone watching, I haven't got my phone or my tablet with me, but hopefully you can. Anton, can you go to my stream, please?
Sure.
And just check that your CV has come up with our video in the right corner. Because I can't.
Oh, I'm now wondering if I've got the right CV in front of me. Mike, this isn't the one.
I sent
Does
you on
it say
Slack.
Anton?
Yeah, let me have another look.
So your address is what? So hopefully everyone can see it. Anton, hopefully you can see your CV.
Oh, I like your format.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Cool. Okay. So
Actually, I can only see
So-
half of it.
I've zoomed in too much. Right now, I made it full screen. It's probably not.
I
a good
think
idea.
you sent me the wrong one, Eddie.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just. A bit of technical issues. Doesn't matter. Let me just go back to this picture. And we go back to Andrew, and I close Slack. So that's freaking brilliant. Oh, it's in his. It's an email. I didn't send it to you. It's
It's an
in
email.
a Code Mortal's email.
Oh, okay.
I didn't send it to you. Okay. So it's only half as big. What about now?
Can you move it to the left?
That's so weird. Like that? Oh, I can see it behind. Okay, yeah, like that. Wow, that's so weird. Let me move the sidebar. Right sidebar. Yeah, you can read that. I can see it behind. Oh, wrong screen. That will come through in a second. No, it's a bit of a delay. It will come through. So, trust me. It's resizing, trust me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
There we
cool.
go. Got it.
Wait about 10 seconds. There's a lag for YouTube to live stream it.
Yeah, there it is.
So cool. Okay, this is Anton's CV. What are your first impressions? Let's go around. I'll go last. I'll talk
Okay.
too much. Actually,
You wanna start with me?
No,
talk
you've
too
not
much.
talked enough.
Thank you.
Okay,
No?
well,
Yeah.
first of all, as I look at it, single page, so not too long, which is nice.
Single page?
Look,
I got like 2.
have you? Hang on, let's have a look. There are 2 pages.
There we go.
There you go. It's just not scrolling like a normal CV does. It's
Full
because I'm
hands.
on full screen, that's all.
Oh,
I don't often go in full screen when I'm reading a CV. Okay, so yeah, there's 2 pages. Fairly clear, nice and easy to on the eye as such, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
I can see at the top details to contact him. Obviously, if this was coming from a recruiter, that probably would have been
Yeah,
removed.
you would have removed that, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But introduction, proactive, creative, fast, enthusiastic. Working industry for 13 years, that's good to know.
I've got to admit, I've got to jump in. I'm disappointed.
I know why.
I'm disappointed. Oh, mind the camera. In fact, I didn't move around too much.
Prepared for
React
changes.
before I enter that?
No, I'm not even looking at the details. The
Oh,
first thing I glance at this, where is your GitHub link? I know you do all open source work, because for me, when I get, you might hate me for this, when I get a bunch of CVs, a bunch, like 5, whatever it is, the ones with GitHub links go to the top, the ones without go to the bottom, because I can actually see their work. Like it's like.
Well,
it's
what
like
happens
getting a
next,
linguist
after
who
I
asks
look
to
at the
speak the
CV,
language.
if I'm interested, that's the place I'm going to go next. So you're right, I'll probably look at the CV first before looking into the GitHub link, to be fair. But once I've started to shortlist them, the next thing I'm going to do is understand what they've actually done before I go back. So I'll have shortlisted them and I'll say, yeah, okay, looks good. Right, now, where can I go see what they've done? There's no links on here to any examples of work.
Socials as well.
There's no links, as you say, to places like GitHub. So I'm going to end up having to hunt the internet a bit now and find out a bit more
I'm going to take your
about
name, and it's probably going to be 101 Anton Smiths, and yeah, then I'll just lose interest, and I'll
Have you
put
not
last.
got GitHub here at all?
No, I know he does open source work. I know he does React. We don't like him for that
That
reason.
is a bit
but-
surprising. It didn't catch my attention in the beginning.
Recruiter as well.
The reason why is because you guys are developers, right?
Yeah.
So when you look on the GitHub, you can actually literally see everything they've done. You see how good
Absolutely.
it
You
is.
can see you can see their journey as well. That's one of the things
I
that
can't.
fascinates me, is the journey they've
Why
gone
can't?
through.
I can't. I can see volume, the languages
Okay,
you've
yeah.
done it in, and I don't do Python. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I
you
know if
understand.
someone's been active, and that's always a good sign. If you want to impress someone,
I need to show you our GitHub account, see what you think.
See if you're impressed or not.
we wouldn't be
yeah.
able to. Most
Okay.
people, the first route won't be able to tell if they're in, because we don't.
But you can see the activity, though,
We can
right?
see
If
activity.
they're
So it shows.
doing
It tells more about your character and your passion than it does about you. Because it could be a lot of
rubbish.
a lot
True.
of bad things.
But it's something.
It's something. And the hiring manager that we're working with, whether it be a bigger client or whatever, they don't know either. So it's only when it gets from hiring manager to you guys that you actually would, in a bigger company, you
Yeah.
actually get to see this. Whereas if you're working with founder, like
No, I'm not looking at the time. I'm getting notifications on my watch. Andrew, I need your phone.
is this you getting one of my emails?
No.
It just sends me.
No, this is Slack. But can you go to my YouTube channel, because I can't see the chat
The only caveat with GitHub is that you can run a script.
and cheat. That's
And cheat.
obvious, but you can see that.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. I've seen people do that, and you can straight away see.
Don't do it, guys.
Don't do it. There's no point in doing
It's
it.
no
'cause
good.
If
Yeah,
someone
you'll
does
get
that,
caught out.
the CV's in the bin. It's not worth it. I won't even invest any time looking into it, so it's not worth doing it.
But
Okay.
I'm gonna counteract that with something. Is
Okay.
there a possibility that someone is lazy and doesn't have a lot on their GitHub, but
Yes.
actually they're amazing?
Yeah,
So if you're
thanks.
binning
Yeah.
all of my CVs that I'm sending to you based on GitHub, that these guys are actually really good developers and they want to get through to me for me to send you the CV, might not be such a bad idea.
I'm still going to look at the CV, but the ones with the GitHub link is going to go into the top of the list. I'm just going to get more of my attention. So I'm going to look at the GitHub before I look at the CV. I know Andrew does the
Oh,
CV
yeah, sure.
first. I'll look at GitHub. If it's activity, it looks good, then to be honest, I don't even look at the CV. I'm just more interested in their GitHub. What have they worked on recently? What does their work look like? What does their work look like 3 months ago? Is it worse than it is now? No matter what level they're at, I just want to know 3 months ago it's worse than it is now. Because if it's the same, they've learned nothing in 3 months. So for me, it's really important, and I want to see how they interact and communicate with other people. So it's not just about their code; it's about when they log an issue, or when they reply to an issue, reply to a pull request, and they put in a comment. I want to know that they have, they're good at collaborating rather than. I've seen some really good developers look at their code. I'm like, this person, I'm hiring them. And you go, no, and dig a bit deeper, look at how they collaborate with other people. I don't care if you want to make the change, you go effing make it yourself. It's like, well, that's not how you collaborate with people. I don't
It's
care.
like a social media.
But it is social coding.
It is.
But it is social coding.
It is.
And for me, I don't care how good that developer was. They weren't joining my team because they'll be a cancer within the team. Because they won't follow the code. We peer review, no matter how good anyone is, we peer review each other's work. So for me, it's not just about the code, it's about their thinking,
It's about how they do
documentation,
stuff,
it's automated testing, but also how they collaborate with random people.
So that works really well for what you're doing in your processes for what you're hiring into. I think with some of the bigger corporate companies or even startups, for them, like a lot of people I work with, Python developers, like not all of them will publish the things that they're doing. If they're working commercially, they can't publish everything.
But not their day stuff, also what they're learning. Like if they're just playing with React,
No,
Angular.
Like developers are not always just wanting, like if they're doing coding 8 hours a week, like 8 hours every day, they don't always want to go back home and do more coding.
True.
Don't they?
That's why.
So I don't understand that.
But true, but
I'm
also
joking.
what about if they find a defect, they might raise the issue on another project and say, look, I mean, we're using React or Angular, whatever it is, I found this defect. How they log that defect, I think is really important, as in did they include the information? Because when we work with juniors, one of the advice I always give to juniors is don't try, if you've got a problem in the start, don't make it that I've got to get blood out of stone. If you want my help, tell me what have you done, what did you try, what worked, what didn't work, and so on. Not, I've got a problem, can you help me? Okay, what is it? It doesn't work. How the fuck am I going to help you? It doesn't work. Doing what? Like, tell me, well, I've opened it in Chrome, I've gone to this page, I typed this command, or I've got this error, I've tried this, it still didn't work, and I tried this. I can help a lot easier. So if it's blood out of stone, it's really, really painful. So for me, that's really important. They're just raising an issue on someone else, or even an idea, just raising an idea. Great idea if you had this feature, like 2 words. That's no good. You know, on this page or on this whatever, it'd be great if you had this feature that did this, and then also had, you know, they put a bit of thought in. There's a few lines. I'm not saying
It's almost like if you actually have a job, right? You're not going to go to your boss and say, I've got this idea, build it. You're going to have to explain yourself as to what the benefit is going to be, who the target audience is going to be for this, and so forth. You've got to make a decision, are you going to invest time in it? Because everything's going to cost time. That your idea, someone might come and pick it up off an open source project and do it if they find it's useful as well. But if you're the person maintaining it, chances are you're trying to maintain it for a larger audience than just one person as well. So you need to try and explain a little bit in the open source stuff what you're actually doing. So yeah, don't expect just by giving a one-liner on an open source project you're going to get someone come and sort it out for you. Chances are you'll end up with a really long discussion with a load of people and it'll get completely misconstrued to what you want.
Closed off probably.
Yeah.
So what about people outside of your open source community who are not?
For example, like as in
people,
non-techie?
people
or?
who no, absolute developers, but there are loads of developers who don't contribute a lot on GitHub.
It's true.
My brother's a developer. He's like, I don't need to, like, I'm a good developer. I don't struggle for work. I don't need to post things and do extra work as homework on personal projects to prove my worth, because he's just going to get hired.
I suppose it depends what you're looking for a little bit as well, because I think when you're going onto GitHub, you're looking for that social people, the people that are going to build a long-term network with. Because I mean, Anton, who's just about to leave the room, Anton, Eddie, myself, and a couple of other people on the current team, we've worked now together on probably a few projects, let's say, over a number of years. And you build that kind of community, and that is driven from people that have the right attitude. And I think you don't learn about that attitude. Is it going to be someone you're going to have a longer relationship and you can work with for a long time? And is it going to be a contracting group perhaps that you're going to bring in and you say, oh, actually, I know this chap, he can come and help out, he's got these skills, he's appropriate for the job. Whereas if you're somebody that probably doesn't get involved in that from the start, then chances are you're always going to be a bit of a loner wherever you go. I'm not saying that's 100%, but I think that is what happens a lot. If you're not getting involved in these things, you're not going to events, you're not getting into the social coding aspects, those things, I think it can become quite a lonely life in the future if you don't do that. I'm not saying you have to do it to not have a low life. It's not true. There are plenty of people that are quite happy with that. But I do think you will end up feeling quite lonely longer term.
And I've got a really good example. It's like, you made me think of something. It's like, I don't know, hiring someone from marketing and they don't have any social media accounts. Will you not worry?
Yeah, but developers, guys, come on.
Developers not all guys.
No, I'm saying that to you.
Oh, okay. So
Excuse me very much.
I'm just teasing.
Come
on, you're a recruiter.
You tried me. No, it's fine. Okay, that's not been my experience. This is the first time I'm really hearing that kind of perspective. I've also never had a hiring manager or a founder tell me, hey, but where's... They ask about the GitHub, but it's not... I've never heard them bring it up as the most important thing.
I would
Just
bring
in
it
my
up.
I
skill.
think it's changing though.
I think the reason being is that in the field that I work in, so Python devs and data engineers, they are people who often come from very, maths, statistical backgrounds, and these guys don't often want to do extra codes outside of work.
But it's not just extra though, it's also, don't forget, I mentioned during the day they might find a defect on a project they're using. If they're using Django, they might log a defect or an idea. If that's
Wouldn't
awesome,
they have to have permission to kind of
Not
publish that
necessarily.
from their
A lot of
company?
open source.
it's
So,
not from their company, but from their personal
so for
account.
example, you mentioned Angular and React earlier. They're both open source projects. We use
So
them
is
day in,
Django.
day out, and so is
Yeah.
Django. If I'm using one of those and I find an issue with the documentation, I will go and report that issue. So you can look, you might not be someone that's got lots of code because all your code is hidden, but you might have lots of issues you've raised and you've been involved in the other aspects of, I'm a consumer, I use these things, why not give things back that are going to make my life better and probably others? Because chances are in 6 months from now I might come back and have to do the same thing again. If the documentation was wrong 6 months ago and I figured out how to solve it, then I
Okay.
want that to be there and when I come back in 6 months because I'll have forgotten what it was I had to do most likely.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
there's lots of other ways that people get involved rather than just writing code, and it's very misconstrued when people think open source is about the code. It's really not. It's about almost all the other things that go on around the code. If you've got your own project that you maintain and you write the code for, great, that's fantastic.
I think for a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's going to be to do with the company. I don't know how
Yeah.
the confidentiality relates to the code, like what you're actually putting out there. So let's say
Yeah,
a
so,
Python developer's working
Intellectual
with,
property is what you're mostly talking about. So the IP for a project. So we work for a lot of banks, for example, and the banks are very IP conscious
Yeah.
because they think they're going to invent the next new thing that no one else has done. and I use the word think there on purpose because generally they're not going to invent the next new thing. Someone's probably already done it. They just haven't been highlighted that heavily. And then you've got to get into the whole legal battle of, well, who actually invented this first? Did you go and steal it from someone else? So there are all these kinds of problems that go on. Everyone thinks they're going to be the next Facebook, the next whatever. Truth is, you're probably not, and you haven't got a great enough idea for that.
hire the right
And people
developer
are working
to
on their own
make it.
silly ideas anyway. So yes, there are those concerns, and I completely appreciate the IP rules, and IP has been a big thing over the years, certainly from the legal world. But yeah, people worrying about their day job. If I'm using a project and I want to contribute something back to that project, you're not giving up the company's IP. The company's IP is in the thing they're actually building, not in using the other stuff that they're
So there's
consuming.
no danger for them to do it.
Shouldn't be any concern for contributing to another
Yeah,
project. If
I
it's
wasn't
already an
aware of
open
that.
project, then
Okay.
yeah, there's no IP litigation. I mean,
If it is an open project, a lot of
yeah,
devs
I mean,
Python
Google are
based.
very big on this, obviously, with that Angular and stuff. If you want to contribute back to Angular, they will ask, oh, can you just say that you're not going to ever come back to us on something that you put in here? So they might ask you to just say something on there. I know some open projects, it's not very often you find that, and even Google don't do it very often, but there are companies that will ask you just to sign some kind of CLA or such to say, yeah.
But that's reducing a
okay with it,
lot.
yeah.
They used to, a lot more companies like Microsoft and Google.
But they
used
will
to
be
do that,
upfront
but
with
they are
that. They won't
reducing it
stop
a
you
lot.
from submitting stuff. So you can still submit stuff. You will still get the credit as an open source credit to say you did something.
Yeah.
But it just might be that as a maintainer they say, look, you haven't approved that we're okay to use this, and that's down to the maintainer to decide that, not down to the person who's done it.
Okay. Cool.
Andrew, could you share a link to your channel if people want to subscribe for more? Would you be able to open it in yours and do it?
Open your channel up.
Yeah, or just copy the link
I will
into
just
the thing.
jump
Try and
off
get
to
some
here.
more CVs.
Yes,
I really
we
want to
should.
give people some like
Yes,
legitimate
actionable
advice.
feedback.
I didn't actually get a chance to going through much of
We're
Anton's there,
diving
so
too much.
It's true. But lots of good questions. Keep them coming, and we'll try to have a look. Okay. So back to Anton's. So he starts off with a kind of an intro. I think is really good. That's great. This next one, which I think is really good, and he goes into the skill set, which again is really good. But I would prefer to see that in a list. I know it takes up more space, but just easier to read.
I really like this.
He's not. His Anton's gone now. You don't have to like say anything nice about it.
No, I legit love that. The reason why I like it is because he's just made a recruiter's job really easy by putting down the language and putting every framework he's used and for every function he's done. So he mentions testing and then he gives literally everything he's worked with in that, and then for deploying in databases. So straight away, for somebody who's like looking through this, they can understand what kind of thing that this person's working in. So you can clearly see this person's not just a front-end developer, they're also doing like a bunch of stuff with deployments and testing, so it's a more rounded skill set. So yeah, I like that he's highlighted it and kind of put it in such a neat format. And it's not just a list of things. So depending on the recruiter, some people will know the basic technologies that they work in, especially if they work like in a niche. But they will not know everything.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know what Jasmine is. Okay? I can't
Yeah,
know
of course.
every
Yeah, of course.
technology.
Even a lot of us don't know all of them. I mean, I've heard of them, but might not know all of them. There's so many out there.
Yeah.
But you
So
might,
the-
if you've
the
got a
reason-
job description, look at a job description, it doesn't mention Jasmine on there, and you say, oh, they're too tight. Yeah, do you do that?
Sorry?
If the job description that you've been given by a hiring organisation says we're looking for someone that's got Jasmine, then that would suddenly become a key word, right?
Absolutely. So absolutely have them in there. What I love is that he's put them in brackets into what language they belong to. So it's actually a very clear way of understanding what this person does.
Awesome.
Good work, Anton.
So Anton, when you're watching this later on the replay, or you're on the train home now and you're watching it, your CV gets a thumbs up from Kate, gets a thumbs down from me, because no GitHub link, no social links. I want to know what you're really like, because attitude is more important than also technical skills. Because technical skills can be taught, but attitude is more difficult. So for me, it's a lot about attitude. Yes, you do have the right attitude, because also I know you, I've worked with you for 5 years, but generally speaking. Andrew, thumbs up, thumbs down.
The only thing I was going to add, because I haven't quite finished when I was
Sorry,
talking a minute ago, was
sorry.
Anton has put too many jobs from his history down. I would say either the last 5 years is all you need to do, or the last 5 roles. I'd say think of the sort of 5 things at most. Don't give a history that goes all the way back, because he's going all the way back to 2005 there, back to when he was a junior developer. Whilst it's great to know that he started as a junior once upon a time, I don't need to know that. Yeah. I mean, it's useful to know his education. He finished his degree in 2005. I assume that's a finish date. It doesn't actually say, but I'll make the assumption that most people normally put a finish date down rather than a start date. But yeah, he doesn't need to list off all of those. I would rather see on there, above the professional history, perhaps 2, maybe 3 of what he would say is highlight achievements from his career have been. What's he really done to help someone? And then, 5 years at most, 5 jobs at most he needs to put down. He doesn't need to put a full history in.
I think another thing you can do if you've done a bunch of contracts is to, I know they're similar skills, so you can put them together. So instead of having like short descriptions for every single job you've done your whole life, just if they're similar or whatever, you can just say front-end developer for this over this span of time. And obviously you can even put, if you want to be really meticulous about it, available upon request or something, so that if they wanted to look at every project you've done, they can.
But I think he could do that in his intro in that first paragraph as well, right? You could say, for the last 5 years I've been a front-end developer.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so much in the history side.
Would you agree that the reason Anton can actually do this is because his latest experience of 1, 2, 3, 4 is significant experience? Apart from that 3-month thing.
Well, as I said, it's 5
he's a
roles, 5
contractor,
years.
And he's lasted a year, he's lasted 2 years and a half in another
It
job.
shows really good.
A year and 5. It's not like this guy has moved on every 3 months.
Which is great
Which is
to know,
worrying.
because it means that either he's been doing a great job there and they've done their best to keep him going, or perhaps that's how long the role was to start with. When I see a CV for a contractor come through, and I've seen a couple recently, and they list kind of the last 5 years, but there's like 20 jobs in the last 5 years. You go, that really concerns me, because that means you've probably got no depth on anything you're doing, unless I can see there's a direct connection between sort of the top 3.
But also
then chances are you've only ever structured, and either people have got rid of you quickly, or you've just ditched people really quickly. You've been chasing money, perhaps. So yeah, if I was to look and see the first 5 jobs have all been done in the last year, again, that will probably be chucked to one side, because I want to see that you are able to hold down at least something for about a year, because as a contractor that should be quite common to see at least a year's job here and there. But yeah, Anton's done very well in the fact that he's got plenty that are a year plus there.
Do you guys also love the fact that he's put years and months next to the dates, so you don't actually have to calculate it in your head? Or is that just me?
I do think that's nice. Yeah,
right? You do want to make it easy for anyone reading.
Yeah, make it easy for recruiters. We have to do enough.
Make it easy for everybody. And also I want to jump in and say there's some in the chat, there's lots of people sending in their CVs on like Dropbox links or Google Drive links. I'm not going to approve those to go through on the chat yet. So what I want to do is I'm on Andrew's phone, so I'm going to post a message
Well, I was going to say we
on
could
Andrew.
share an email address.
I'm doing that right now.
But,
CV.
CV
at codemortals.io, which means Andrew and me will both get it. I want to send it now, so I've got the phone. I'm going to try to send it on Andrew's phone, but it's me sending it. And so we can review. We can bring the CVs up in the next live stream, and we'll review them. So Code Mortals, we'll talk about that another time, but it's another side project Andrew and me are doing. We're going to start live streaming on that one in the near future.
We're busy doing a few designs, getting it all set
Mascot
up. So
logos and stuff.
hopefully,
so,
start of next month, we will do a more formal announcement. So.
Yeah. But we are checking those emails and we'll both receive it. So send it to that and we'll have a look. So that's awesome. Should we move on from Anton's?
Yeah, let's move on mine.
Okay, let's do it. So if I close Anton's, any
Have we
particular
got a preference? Yeah.
Show me the name.
Oh, this one is.
So we got
this is from my
Joanna
friend.
Simpson,
Okay, let's do another
John
one.
Burton, or I'd say do Dom towards the end, perhaps.
Dom towards the end.
Or maybe let's do one of the others, then do Dom next.
Joanna.
So John or
Okay.
Joanna, perhaps.
So I wanted to give you guys a few examples
Let me just remove the
of
slide.
people. A disclaimer: there's a big difference between a good CV and a good candidate.
So Joanna is.
And I want to show you guys the difference between them. And by the way, all of these candidates are really good candidates in what they do. But obviously, CV can be perfect. There's things to improve on every CV, so I just wanted to make a disclaimer that
Oh no, they won't be able to see it. 'Cause I'm
oh,
only
they won't.
streaming
Oh,
that
right,
part
sorry.
of that
So
screen.
you do that. So
No, it's okay.
it's too bad because it kind of changed the format of the dates. This was right before.
Well, what I'm going to say is that
Yeah, 'cause it
one
was
thing
a
from
Word,
recruiters,
words.
a lot of people these days don't use Word, so try and create a PDF and send them over. Because otherwise I get formatting like this a lot of the time,
Oh
and it
my God.
winds
We
me
see
up
all the time.
profusely to see things like this. But
That's so funny
Yeah.
because I was just going to ask every developer out there to put their CV into a Word format.
no, from
Well,
a
that
recruiter,
works.
that's
You're
fine.
going to get it from PDF
Yeah.
from me. And the reason why you get it from PDF is because I don't use an application. I code
Well, you
my
know that
CV.
it's going to format correctly. Yeah.
I code my CV.
Yes.
I code my PowerPoint, my presentations are all coded open source.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can get it in PDF, but it will be generated from code.
Okay.
So, and I can change the styling and all the rest through code, just like all the website.
Mhm.
So, you're going to get it in a PDF from me, if that makes
Okay,
sense. And
gotcha.
I know that causes you probably copy and paste stuff out, probably
Usually-
into.
Okay, so onto the form. So that's a good point.
So I'm commenting
Okay,
slightly.
so there's usually there will be a first line of, even if you're not working directly with a recruiter, there will be someone there who's sitting through CVs and just the first point of contact,
Yeah.
and they'll look at your CV. That person usually, most likely, will need to do something to the formatting of your CV. Doesn't mean we go out there and change it, because we're not really allowed to, and it's not really our job to like, kind of make your CV look good. But for example, if I am working with a candidate, right, a Python developer, and I think they're amazing, and I'm sending them out to 10, 15 companies that I think would be good for this candidate, I'm stripping their CV. So like you see here, this person, you will not have any specific information on their CV because confidentiality reasons. I'm trying to find them the right company, but I might not be working with them at that very moment.
Okay.
So yeah, so it makes our job easier. And another thing is like when we're sending them out to you guys, right, hiring managers or whatever, sometimes they have their own built-in systems. So if you guys go and format your CV into something else, so give me an example of the other guy.
Well, I've closed that now.
Anton's.
Anton's, yeah, I did just close it.
Yeah, I've got it open here if you want.
No, of the people I sent.
Oh, the people you sent me, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, the third one, not
Okay,
this one.
I'll make it bigger for next time. And
Yeah.
then,
This was Dom.
So
there we go.
I took off the picture, but
Okay.
basically in a format like this, it can look really neat for you, and sometimes people even pay for these formats, and it looks beautiful, but it will not look the same on our computers and on the client's computers. So it
Okay.
just looks like really messed up format, and we can't read through it, properly. So the best thing to do when you first send in your CV is to have it in a format like this. This is perfect. Like the look of this is just.
Oh, this is the CV that someone sent in, and she's an awesome junior dev. And
I just love how this looks. Clear pointed.
She knows
not
who
too
she is.
long. Wherever you are, keep it up. So going back to this one. So this is a lot better. It's got what do you guys want to talk about? Do you want to?
I was just going to say also, people watching, if you've got your thoughts on the CV, do share them in the comments, in the chat. I'd be really interested to know what your ignore the formatting, it's kind of lost it going from Word to Apple. That's Microsoft's problem, not Apple's. And you should have used PDFs. So just ignore the formatting slightly. It's more about the content and kind of what comes first. But give us your thoughts. But it just first impressions. You've got work experience at the top, which I think is really good. I prefer skills at the top, personally, just because I like to see straight away. Do they have, and years, like Java, how many years? I don't have to look through their experience to calculate it. I don't believe years are that important, but
I see it as an order of preference. I think when they write this down, this is their preference as to what they want to be working with, not necessarily what they're the best at. So I would say that this person wants to be working with Java, not so much with Python. They've done a bit with it, but it's not what they want to be doing.
It's true. So as long as your experience, I don't have to go to page 2. We're good.
You're fine with it.
Right, because bear in mind this is the most key thing, right? I appreciate there might be some juniors who don't have that commercial experience, but still, it's the first thing, because we're trying to see if I'm looking for a mid-level person. Sorry, but even if you've come from university, you're just not right for the role. So even for these guys, they're looking for people with specific kind of things. There's no point hiding on page 2. But yeah, I would agree.
Well, as I look at this, obviously it's a junior person. I mean, you can see from the education, finished 2017, so fairly recently.
Really?
Yeah.
You've only like less than 2 years experience.
So look at so this is.
So where does it tell you here that this is an experienced person? Because I'm seeing they've done a summer intern. They've been a developer for 2 years since September 17, and it's not quite 2 years because we're not even in September 19 here. So that's junior. For me, 3 years you're junior, 3 years you're mid-level, and then you're into that senior.
Everyone's
rank.
different, but roughly speaking.
Yeah.
So you can't tell that from the CV. That's their catch. You can't tell that they're actually at that level.
Why do you
there
say
are
at that level?
there are certain hints. I didn't expect this person to be a mid-level person. Like I won't say which this is, but the fact that this person achieved the first at university in maths from one of the top. Sorry, I think I missed this.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Big now. I'll let Andrew talk about this one.
So, and you're probably going to say it's pretentious with university.
No, not at all.
No.
Okay.
So if I'm hiring someone, I don't want the most academic person. I really don't, because they're not going to bring a good mix to what you're building. When you're building software, you need more than academia. And if someone's got a first, great, but I'm not going to look just at that. The only thing that the redeeming feature here is that they mention a few other things at the very bottom that they've been involved in. But I'm concerned that this person is highly academic, and as such, great, they might be highly academic, but that there's a good chance there are people on the team that are not highly academic. They're going to get wound up by this person because they're going to be constantly perhaps getting corrected by them.
And not just that, they don't.
And also, they'll be wanting to probably achieve very rapidly, and if you can't give them something that's going to get them to achieve, they're not going to stick around long either. So there's a whole load of warning signs to me if someone is very high on their academia, and as you say, they might maybe present themselves as a mid-weight person because they've got that academia to back them up, but they're still not they're still not a mid-level person.
Like security, performance, there's like so many things, and just so when we give a technical test, we usually give it so they can't finish it in the time allowed, right? So we purposely don't want them to finish. So the test might usually take 3 hours, but we like give them 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour tops. But the idea is we don't want them to finish, but we want to see where they prioritise their efforts. Is it in the architecture? Is it in the automated testing? Is it in the coding? And 90% of people will do it just in the coding to get functionality. And that's not what we want to see. We want to see how they architect it. So we would rather have a lower fidelity, but a wider coverage, and also with the automated testing, test-driven development. And it could be pseudocode.
Do you give them a bit of a clue that that's what they're supposed to do?
No, because we want to see how they think. The thing is,
I'm
you want to
absolutely keen on what they go to.
And the academic people will get it to work with just the code, which is actually the lowest in value of the test. Or even work. I would rather have, say, 6 features 100% done than 10 features that are 80% done and not tested. And people always think that testing is the lowest value. But if someone says I've only got time to do half the work, say for example, like I'm not working tomorrow on this work.
But is there a possibility that they don't know that this class requires 3 hours and you're only giving them 45 minutes?
You would hope they can figure that out.
No, but we say it won't be finished. You can't finish it. Just do
the important parts that you think is the most
important. And it's really interesting. Most people don't. An academic person will make it work, but making it work is not the key goal. And that's why we usually don't.
That's a trick question.
It's not because in practice.
It's that's the reality. When you get put into a job, that's the reality. You don't get told this is what you need to focus on. You get told this is what you've got to do.
I've learned a lot today.
Yeah.
This is really, really good because it's just different perspectives. Just really shows kind of different point of view. And a hiring manager who is in technical they want to progress their career, right? So they want to meet deadlines and cut corners just to meet it. And they don't look at quality, as you always see in our
what happens then is you might achieve the project, but you don't achieve.
Longevity,
It's like the concept of you've got to pick your battles, right? You've got to choose your battles to win the war. And some people choose their battles to say, right, I'm going to just get this done, and they win every single battle, but they fail at the war because this thing just is unmaintainable. You're going to bring new people into the project that just can't look after it.
It needs to
and
be
you'll end up falling
longevity.
flat on your face with your projects.
And the projects usually last 5.
And people don't see that
10 years.
normally.
It needs longevity.
I'm learning a lot.
So I think we're all learning.
Well, I think the problem is as
Okay.
well. This is not just a problem because of what you're talking about. This is a general view out there. There's a general view out there that if you hire the most academic people, you're going to get the best product. You're probably not. But it's a view that's been instilled through social and all the rest of it that's what you need. But it's not true. And some of it comes from our generations above us, our parents, our grandparents, have instilled this kind of, you've got to be really good academics, that's how you get a job. And that perhaps was true in the past, but technology has made that very different now. Technology will cater for your mistakes in a lot of cases.
There's no black and white with this.
Absolutely.
I've seen people who have come out of average universities and they've overachieved, or have not done A-levels and got 3 distinctions in IT and computing, and they're kind of like an anomaly. They're kind of like, maybe this person didn't get a chance to go to a college and get A-levels, or for whatever reason, but they've actually done really well on other things. So and this is why a good CV is one thing and a good candidate is another thing. Because it's about the story, and we'll get into how we qualify candidates later. But I just wanted to mention the fact that it depends on what the company needs and what the candidate is, right? So I appreciate you saying that, academics perhaps how you guys recruit don't matter. I think the people you recruit are quite senior. So once you have 3 or 4 years of specialization, it doesn't really matter, because they can look at the companies you've worked for, the projects you've done, what you've got on your CV, and the tech people will be able to identify if you're actually worth interviewing and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. I'm just talking about juniors.
Okay, juniors different.
And the reason why
there's 2 things I heard.
Just because if it's a startup, right, and you're going to hire one junior and you're going to bring them up and you're going to invest all of that energy to just teach them everything, right?
Yeah.
You want to know that person is super smart and they'll be able to pick it up quickly. And unfortunately, one of the easiest ways of doing that is just to look at academics and be like, hey, this person can get things quickly. But I agree with you, it's not everything. And there's things you can do to show that you're great, even if you didn't go to the best one.
So I'm going to say one thing here, and that is I do hire plenty of juniors as well.
We do,
generally permanent ones. In fact, we've just hired 2 fairly recently. Okay. I'll give them a shout out, Dan and Yunes.
They might be watching now.
They may be watching.
They came for the interview and they were like, oh yeah, we saw you on a live stream on YouTube.
Believe it or not, neither Dan or Yunes came from an academic background, I would say. So I'd say neither Dan or Yunes came from an academic background. They really were keen on tech. They've done lots of tech things. They didn't have a no tech background by any means. They have some tech background. But they weren't like the top achievers at school, let's say. I can't remember the CVs at all, so apologies if I got it slightly wrong, Dan and you. But
you have seen a lot of CVs.
There were a lot of CVs that came through, but the things that stood out to me were the actual, what they were doing extracurricular to that. Dan was doing a lot of stuff on GitHub, Yunes was doing a lot of watching YouTube stuff, for example, so he found us on YouTube as well. And he was getting very involved in the kind of all the peripheral things, but the main thing was that they were getting it, their attitude was the right attitude.
That's important.
And I have to say they're probably some of the best juniors I've probably seen hired into a company. And I've in the past hired over the academic side of things, and I've seen them just struggle because they get stressed out by it. They want to be the best, that's all they've ever been is the best, and they get really stressed, and that tends to overwhelm them. And I've seen a lot of juniors go that way, unfortunately, because I've hired on the academic side, and I feel bad for them because obviously that's what they wanted to do. Whether that was something they were pushed towards or not, I don't know. But I'd rather have the people that they want to make it part of their life. They want to do that extracurricular stuff. So I look to see in a junior, what is it that drives them? Are they someone that wants to be in tech? They're going to events, they're talking to the right people, they can hold a conversation around tech and let's say have a conversation between a non-technical and a technical person. That's quite a skill to have, and if you've got that skill early on, that's even better.
And also to add to that, just one more thing you made me think of, which I've just forgotten, which is really stupid. Oh yeah, no. Shit, what did you say? Sorry, pardon my French. What did you say a second ago about before events? The right attitude. So
yeah.
I think, again, this is generalising, so it could be wrong, but I think with people, we want team members, everyone is to contribute. It doesn't matter, where their expertise lie, if it's more coding, more documentation, more BA or whatever it is, or more testing, everyone is to contribute to the team. And you want, if we don't meet a deadline for whatever reason, and there's one feature, one story that didn't get done, the team failed, not a person failed. And I think with a lot of high achievers, they say, well, I've done mine, or overachievers say, I've done mine, well, that's kind of it. Whereas no, it's either the team's done their work, or the team hasn't done their work. There's no I. So I'm generalising a lot.
Very different, yeah.
So I'm generalising a lot, but that's what we found from our experience in people who always want that 100%, that first.
Okay, so it's a very different environment, I guess, and that works for some people. So again, when you get on the phone with people, you really get an understanding of their personality.
True.
This CV, for example, this person, they were a person who was a really good coder, just someone that you could trust, that you could just sit down and just do really good code, very strong technically, and you know when someone's good, strong technically just when you talk to them.
Sure.
That was the story, but it's about finding the right fit for that person. So for example, some people don't. They like to code and they like to develop, they're good at it, but they don't necessarily want to spend their whole life.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And that's absolutely fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's different strokes for different folks, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, especially when you're talking about startups, certainly the more aggressive ones who are really, doing really well, really quickly, and they're growing massively, and they're looking to take on really ambitious people. A personality fit is very important.
Absolutely.
So the academia kind of tells them that. So like if they're academic and then on top of that they're quite ambitious and they go out and do things, it does paint a picture. And some companies are looking for that. Some companies are more relaxed and they'll take on people who are just happy, just sitting there and kind of coding and doing a good job with it. So it's a matchmaking thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I think it's interesting that some companies, like you said, think the academic means that the person's going to excel if they've done really well in their academics. Well, we're the opposite. Like Andrew said, if they're on a live stream now or watching live streams, or about participating, not just watching, but participating, be it open source, be it live streams, be it hackathons, be it meetup, even not necessarily related to they might be a Python dev, but they're interested in Scala or whatever it is. They might just do something else, a little bit, occasionally a bit of fun. For me, that adds value because they're going to learn different things around tech that reinforces what they know in their core skill. It doesn't have to be, like I interviewed many years ago an amazing woman who in her spare time, she said, I don't like to code. I'm like, that's fine. She goes, I like to program robots. But to me that's coding, right? It's the same thing, but she said it was different. But when I talked about it, you could hear she really thought about how to architect it, how to make it performant, because there's only so much data she can transfer while the kind of robots driving around the room or whatever. And it was really, really interesting. And for me, that's quite similar. She thought it was different. There are other people who do other things, but I think someone who's passionate about something is always going to be passionate about they're a passionate person, right? You're passionate about recruitment. You went to the event yesterday, you're here today. So if you were given a task you don't normally do or don't want to do, I think you'll still do a really good job because you're generally kind of a passionate person and you'll do it in a way that makes you kind of interested in it. So I guess personality is important, like you said. That's why I look at this as academic, because I want someone to be passionate about something. Because if someone's not passionate about anything, they're not really passionate about anything. Doesn't make any sense.
It's very hard to help them grow as well.
Right, so if you're thinking about someone who's just graduated, of course they have interest in stuff, but they wouldn't have had that much commercial experience, so they may not know what they're passionate about yet. So I get it a lot, and I work with people who get on the phone with them, and most of them are not the most excitable person on the phone.
Really? Okay.
And that doesn't mean that they don't have passion.
That's true.
No.
Or that they're not good at what they do, or that they
It's
will
not
not be really passionate in
True.
2 years when they've just found the right thing.
When things
Yeah.
click, absolutely.
So it's about finding that, and especially when you're working with younger people, you know,
That's
it takes
true.
some
But it's
time.
not how they
very
talk. They don't have to talk excitedly, I don't think. Yeah,
That's just me.
it's what they're doing, right? You can be the
Very
most
true.
excitable.
That's
Oh
a good
gosh, wow,
point.
yeah, let's do that. I want to do this. Go
But
there.
then the opposite
But
is too extreme.
you don't.
right?
Yeah, they
You
need.
that's really
It's
bad.
what they're doing. It's the actual things they're doing. The evidence
Yes.
is in what
Yeah.
they're doing, not so much how they talk about it. How they talk about it will change, and they will perhaps get more excited in the way they talk if they're put in the right environment to do that. But that's then an environment thing that the organisation needs to support and to help bring that out of them. But you're right. But at the same time, I still think that it's the attitude that's the important thing, and the attitude is told by the things they're doing. So if they can explain on a phone in 5 minutes to me how their attitude aligns to tech industry,
Yeah.
the technologies they're using, why they're using those technologies, what interests them, why do they want to be a web developer versus a desktop app developer, or what are the different things they're looking at? If they can actually explain that in 5 minutes and it makes sense, then that is much more valuable than me looking at their CV going, so tell me about Java, I want to know what's a generic, and you're just going to sit there having this big technical conversation about sort of the technology rather than what they're doing. I mean, chances are everyone's going to give you a very similar answer. They've all come out of university, let's say they've all been taught the same things, they've all gone through the same exams, they've all got a first. Chances are they're all going to have the same answer. So why am I going to sit there and quiz them on, tell me about Java and tell me about this language? They're not going to learn much from that. You're just going to learn, okay, yeah, you did go to university, great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a very important thing. Yeah. So like people who, when you list your university things and people, hopefully they do step up and how they work them, being able to talk about that and kind of
Yeah.
go into detail
Yeah.
Exactly.
is very important.
And what was the most thing that excited them most when they were doing that project?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I remember at university I did a battleships game, and the thing that excited me the most out of making that battleships game was the explosion and the sound of the explosion. Absolutely. And you can talk about how difficult it was to do that. I mean, this was 15, 18 years ago now, and it was really difficult to do something like that back then, let's say. It's really
Yeah,
easy
it's-
now.
it's much
So it
easier
was
now.
quite an achievement that I felt doing those things.
I'm just going to say I have a few more comments about CVs. If you want us to review your CV in the future, send it to CV. Oh, not wrong email. CV at Code Mortals. I haven't sent it yet. I'm going to send it in the chat in a second. CV at codemortals.io. We'll explain what Code Mortals is in the future, but Andrew and me will both receive that. I'm just going to send that in the chat. So, but don't forget to anonymize it. Remove any of your personal details, phone numbers, email addresses. And just replace them with like X's or whatever it is, or where your name is, just write name in capitals or something like that. So we've had a few more questions. Hi to everyone who's just joined. We've got Venkatesh from India, and I recognise a few other names in other parts of the world, so thank you very much for joining in. We've been going for about an hour and 23 minutes.
We'll have to wrap up soon.
So we're going to have to wrap up soon. We'll look at maybe one more CV if we can, and maybe squeeze in
Yeah,
one
I
job
think there was that
posting.
one,
Yeah.
was it Dom, I think, looked like a good one to talk a bit about.
Yeah. One thing that you go on the CV, but I just wanted to mention, and we can show it on the next one.
Okay.
Is guys, when you're sending your CV, depending on whether it's an advert or whatever, make sure that you tailor it to what you're sending it to. So to give you an example, it's important to have a very generic CV with listed your skills. But then if you are sending it to a specific company, look at what they're looking for and see how it aligns with what you've done or things that you're interested in. Because the worst thing you can possibly do is send a CV and then when hiring, so let's say you send it to me, right? And I'm working with you, you're my candidate, and I'm like, okay, this person's great for this role that these guys have, right? And on top of your CV, it says, I'm interested in AI and machine learning because it's a big buzzword and everyone wants to do it, right? And these guys are not doing let's say they're not doing any machine learning and AI. They're going to look at it and be like, oh, right, okay, we can't. And you're immediately putting a bit of doubt inside of a hiring manager's or client's name because you're like, well, we're not doing that. What are the chances? Like, you don't want that to work against you. I wanted to bring this one up. Oh, sorry.
Don't move it.
Yeah, I will move it. So this is an example of what your CV will look like when you're working with me and I send it off to hiring managers or developers or founders or whoever's looking through the CVs. So the reason we spend time talking to you guys on the phone is to really understand the key bits of your CV and how it relates to the job spec and what this company needs. because we would have spent that annoying hour with you
Well-
qualifying the role
Well-
and really understanding, hopefully, exactly
I'm sure you would
what
have
you're
loved
looking for.
the one we did a number of years ago. We went up to the boardroom in a very fancy old building,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it had a big oval table in there, and we had,
Huge.
I think, 8 different recruiters all sat around this table. It's all gilded, and
Think real
I won't
fashion.
name the company actually, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're a very historic company involved in the printing industry.
Okay.
I'll say.
Yeah. So we use when we talk to you, this is what we kind of are trying to get together. Is just a summary of what you guys did that's relevant to this job that we're sending you to, and you just put some basic information. So this is why you need to put your tech skills on your CV, your grades, what salary you're looking for. Oh, why has it done that?
Oh, it's formatted it a bit odd.
Can I just?
Was it?
Oh no, can't do anything. Guys, it's like change the format a little bit
Because we've gone from Windows
to Mac.
to Mac.
Okay.
So that's why you should always send
Oh.
everything in
PDF
PDF.
because it's neutral
Guaranteed
across all the
it,
operating
yeah.
systems on PDF. Yeah.
Yeah.
So scroll up slightly. So my first impression is projects available on GitHub, LinkedIn. So why haven't they included the link?
Because I've removed them.
Oh.
So.
Oh, when you
So
send it
guys,
out,
no,
or just for this event?
no. So
Okay.
guys,
You're
I've
trying
had to
to
take off the companies
stop people
and the names
identifying
for
them.
confidentiality
Okay.
Because you
reasons.
don't want us to know who it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
okay. So normally
but
you
this
do-
person, so straightaway projects has LinkedIn, has GitHub, which is important to include.
Awesome.
I
Okay.
agree with you.
Cool. That's good. That should
Um,
be at the top though. GitHub at the top, not LinkedIn. Who cares about LinkedIn? People can write anything on there. I could write I'm the president of the UK. Not that there's a president apparently,
Really?
but GitHub just tells you the truth. There's no lying.
That's for you, but the first person who sees this
Oh,
is a
yes,
person who's
of
not
course,
technically
yes,
strong.
true.
So actually cater to the people who are your wall between
Yes.
nothing and these guys, yeah?
That's true. That's
so,
true. Fair point.
So, and you can change that later.
That's
but
true.
That's what you're going to be getting because, yeah.
LinkedIn, GitHub, then LinkedIn, right?
As long as you have a good, he's going to be happy, and he's going to not chop your head off. Yeah, I love the way this is structured. It just looks really neat. It's kind of messed up because of the format, but
Take that with a pinch of
it
salt.
wasn't like that originally.
I also like how they've written it's perm or contract part-time. I think they've made it really crystal clear, and it
Yeah.
seems I trust this person more immediately because they've been really transparent with it. They haven't tried to say, oh, that was a contract role or that was a perm role or something. So I do like the honesty and open heart.
And straight away, so when you're looking at these frameworks that people have listed, where have they used them? So one of the first things I do on the phone is actually, okay, you have all these, you say you did all these technologies, okay, how much and when have you used them? Because that's what you guys then question me about is,
Yeah.
have they actually used the Django framework, for example? So
You've got quite a mixture. I see a lot of technologies used, like from .NET
Yeah.
to Django to...
The only thing I would say as I glance at this as well is you look at there's 5 roles and it only goes back to mid-17. So 2 years and there's 5 roles there.
yeah, so
There is
in
one
terms
role
of-
that's been a little bit longer. I think there's
Well,
one there
there's a
July
contract
18 to
there as
March
well.
19.
There's a part-time contract.
Yeah.
So another thing that we do when you go through a CV is you create a story. So you go back to their education, you figure out, well, was this a short-term job because they were doing this part-time while they were still at university, which is always a good thing, which
Yeah.
is probably what was happening.
Yeah, because I can see the education
16.
finished in April 18, so it's a junior
So
person.
it's good that there's overlap. I think you can show that's initiative, right? They've started working part-time or whatever it is during education. I think that's amazing. I think
Good
it's
stuff.
really good.
Good
Big
stuff.
thumbs up.
So yeah. Yeah, so definitely, and again, like even gaps in CV don't necessarily tell the whole story. It could be a contract, could be many different reasons. Until you really talk to the person on the phone, you don't
Yeah.
know what their reasons are. So
That's
it's
true.
really important. That's why you guys got to pick up the phone.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, I think almost every junior CV that comes in, I almost don't look at the CV. I'll just say, look, if it's a junior role, I'll just
Okay,
talk to them for
cool.
5 minutes. I
You
don't
need to
care
have
so much
that.
about the CV for a junior role personally, because the CV doesn't tell you very much. They haven't got the experience to say that much on there. So
And
the best
also-
thing to do for me is just 5 minutes on the phone with every single one of them. So I'll just block out an afternoon if possible and try and get them back to back if it's possible.
So I've done internship, I've done placements. I've
Which is
spoken
good.
to someone yesterday who's done a 9-month machine learning internship and actually done like really,
Absolutely.
so they could almost be at a level like with Python developers. they go senior really quickly. You know, people who have done like 3, 4, 5, they're seniors.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
once you've got 5 years in one language, then you could say you're a senior for that language.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, 5 years, I've always said the last 5 years are all that really matters. But to become, I say, someone that can actually lead and mentor people, you need a longer term than that. You'd be very good at doing that on yourself and being able to be the person that could drive it forward and perhaps advise others on this is the right way to do something. So from doing the pull request reviews, for example, I'd like that person to be doing the pull request reviews for me and that kind of stuff to make sure that there's consistency there and the right things have been done. But would I be saying to them, okay, I want you to go and architect the next bit of software that we're going to build, or I want you to go and effectively go sit with the client and talk to the client about how we're going to do something? Perhaps not, because you might, perhaps in a supporting role, I might bring you into the room with me to do that and to start building up the skills in that area. But you're not senior to me as far as I would go and send you in and to do everything you need to do. It would be, okay, you're senior for that role, so you'll probably get paid appropriately as a senior person for that role. So the Python dev, let's say a permanent Python dev for 5 years, they could probably expect, certainly in London, between 60 and 80,000 salaries, I'd have thought, permanent people. So, yeah.
And salary does tell you pretty much
Yeah.
a lot about someone's level as well. Depending, you can be overpaid or underpaid.
And they can
for
also,
sure. But when you understand your market as well, so understanding where they hire Python people, you also know with the companies that overpay or underpay.
Of course.
So it's like you can kind of judge what level someone's at.
But when you're looking for money as well, you've got to sell yourself a bit as well, because
Don't lie about your salaries.
but
To
they
us.
could though, right? But they
To
could.
them, yeah, but not to us.
But they could. So
We're your friend. So do you?
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Like your
We'll always say,
recruiter-
like I said, I just said
recruiter's trying
60 to
help
80.
You get a job and get a good salary. So
and,
like,
and,
don't lie
and
to us. We're
get you
just-
the most amount of money so they can get their commission. Right? I'm just joking.
Yeah,
Half joking.
it's true.
But that's good, right?
But
You're
that's
helping the
good, you're trying to get
candidate.
them.
But yeah,
That's good.
I mean, you work both sides. We're a matchmaker, yeah, but
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
like it doesn't help you to lie to a recruiter at all, in terms of what you're getting, because essentially they're just trying to have your back anyway.
Yeah, I think it's good to be honest, because then they'll give you honest feedback and you won't waste anybody's time, which I think is really important, including the candidate's time.
Yeah.
So they get so far, but then they don't make it, and the recruiter could have predicted that if they knew that, you know, I guess a lot of people, when they call a recruiter, they also automatically add like 20% to their salary. So, oh yeah, I'm currently earning 20% more. So then you can go, oh, I'll get you another 20% more, and they kind of jumped up 40%. Which doesn't always work out, but people try and wing it, I guess. You know?
Yeah, but you know when they're lying.
Do you?
Yeah. Because they're not that good liars. Sorry, guys. But
Okay.
like,
Fair enough.
it's the way you say it. Like,
True.
yeah.
True, that's fine.
And also, when you give someone honesty, they most of the time they do give it back to you. Well, I like to believe so anyway.
Okay.
See, I
that's
find
good.
it the opposite these days as well. I think once you get to a certain point, I always say less than what I currently get, because I know chances are there's no jobs out there at that rate. So I'll always say this is the rate that I get, and I always kind of tongue in cheek, I kind of go, okay, well I know my rate is this, but I know that the sort of job you're going, probably they're advertising at this. So I will say, okay, I will take, I'm not going to say a number, but I will take a 20% drop on what I currently get. But what I will do is during the sort of negotiation process, I will then actually say, actually, you know what, my rate was actually this, and I can prove that here. That's what I expect. And I know it doesn't always work in favour, but I've never not got the job because of that. I've always still got the job. And in fact, often they've given me a pay rise because they appreciate
But
the
you're
honesty
quite
as well.
experienced, so I think
Absolutely,
it's
yeah. It plays a different way once you get to a certain point in your career. So for any of the seniors looking, you've sometimes got to undersell yourself a bit to get yourself in front of the person, but then you can sell yourself with it when you're in front of the person, and you will generally get a better rate.
Okay.
I've never got a lower rate just because I've said that's what I get. I've always ended up getting at least the rate I've been on previously, if not
Do you tell
increased
them,
it.
like, once you get to that stage, you tell them, like, look, I know I've told you, like, I was looking for this, but really I'm worth this?
I wait until the end of
can
the
you-
interview when they actually say I want
Yes.
you for the job, and then I say, okay, well actually this is my real rate if you still want me. I know maybe I've had to say something else, but I've never had that be a problem.
Don't fight the money.
Maybe they've gone to the recruiter and go, why didn't you tell me this is what their rate was?
Yeah, they
Which
do.
might upset them with the recruiter, but unfortunately that's the way in the door a lot of the time for the senior people, because they're looking for the lower rates, and the more junior people are pushing for the higher rates. So in order to get yourself in, the chances are they'll have seen 20 people asking for, I don't know, I'll give a number, 400 a day.
You get out of bed for 400 a day.
No, but anyway, but they've seen 20 people at 400 a day, and I'm going in at 400 a day, and they look at the difference, they go, wow, there's such a huge difference here, we need this person. then you go, well, actually, my rate is 800 a day. I don't go quite that far, by any means, but
yeah,
they
you're
will,
right.
they will tend to say that having seen all these people, how do we make it work to get this person now? Because
And they
they've been put in
usually
front
make
of
an
us.
effort if they like you. If they like
I
you.
know from hiring people, there's always more money in the pocket if for the right person. And
I
that's
feel
from
more
having to
comfortable
myself.
with someone doing that when they actually, can prove that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always end up
Because
probably
I
having to show a
wouldn't be able-
contract or something to prove it.
I
Yeah.
don't know if I would be able to sell you to the hiring manager with that,
Of course.
because I wouldn't be able to really explain
Yeah,
to
but
them.
I'm just saying from both sides, it works both ways. People lie sometimes to get to the next rung up, but also some people will lie to just get in front of people. Not in perm so much, no. I think in
No.
contract industries are much more aggressive and
It's fine, very
Yeah.
money driven as well. So
and there's not always money that drives me as well. And that's part of why I'll be willing to talk to people at a lower rate, because if they've got the right attitude and the right culture in place, and I can feel that there's a growth there, and I want to help them with it, then that goes a long way too.
True, and we run our startups very differently. So although our clients, being say high street banks or government departments, they usually want you on site, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, whatever it is. But with our startups, we run them fully remote. So our team members are all over the world. I don't care where they are. We have the right tools and technologies, and I do fully flexible time. So I don't expect people to do their 9 to 5 in their time zone or in our time zone. For me, it's about getting work done. And if they're not in the right mindset that day, like say all their friends call them up and go, "Hey, look, it's Friday afternoon, it's time to go to the beach," and they're going to sit there just thinking about their friends, checking for a messenger. Fuck work, just go, just enjoy it. Because then on Monday you're going to come back more refreshed and more charged. You're going to do it more. I think that's more important about quality rather than quantity. So we run ours very differently. We're trying to educate a lot of our clients to realise that it's not about bums on seats, and it's not just about hours. It's about meeting. About getting work done and
it's about being
quality
successful.
and being successful. Exactly. And we
But I
talk
do
a lot-
think the big industries are starting to do that. I mean, I've got
Slowly.
friends who work at companies like, I shouldn't mention the names probably, but they're again financial institutions, let's say, and they've said, you know what, they're quite flexible now. I can work 4 days a week if I want to. Don't have to even tell anyone. I'll just work 4 days that week. Obviously, I won't get paid for that day, and I'm aware of that. Or I can come in at midday and work till 8 p.m. Again, so a lot of companies are starting to actually do that, even the big ones. So the message is getting out there. It is changing, but I think that is a key factor these days in being successful in writing a project. Because if people are just being told, "Get this done," you're not leaving here till it's done. They're going to just rush it, get it done really quick because they want to get off to the next thing.
And also that affects culture. I think it's really important. So we get called in to help teams that have really bad culture. And one of the things is buying lunch for your team doesn't help culture. It's like the icing on the cake, right? If you've got good culture, the team will want to go out together for lunch or for a drink after work. Forcing that doesn't inspire good culture. And I think when everything's high priority for a team, everything's kind of low priority. And if everyone's always firefighting, then they're never going to want to do a good job. They're going to do the bare minimum just to kind of get themselves out of the fire. But then, when they have done, there's another fire. And I think if something's so urgent, then something's wrong. Something hasn't been planned right, and all the rest. Like for example, one of the people who worked for me said 2 days ago, "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I'm looking for a day off." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, but this is urgent." I said, "No, it's not. If it's urgent, I've planned it wrong. Nothing is that urgent that we can't have time to do family time, look after parents, look after kids, or whatever it is. Nothing is that urgent if you've planned it wrong." And so many companies are all about urgency and firefighting. It's because they've done something wrong. The foundations is
But
rocking.
if you're working with real-time data, then it's all about time.
No, but everything should be automated though. Like we automate everything. So real-time data is a bit different. But for example, like deploying to production today. I missed that. Sorry. Okay. Talking about just last thing, just to say like deployment, for example, we could deploy to staging or production with a click of a button, and we automated everything, so anyone can do it. It's all repeatable and so forth. So yes, we should call it a
It's
day.
been
Time
2
has
hours,
really run away with us. But I've had fun.
We've got through 3-4 CVs. It's been a little bit slow, but hopefully those
But some
CVs have had a lot of good positive points around when you're writing a CV yourself, things to think about.
And some really good positive feedback. So thank you very much, everyone watching, and some good questions. We might have to address them next time. We are going to call it a day. It has been an hour and 40 minutes live, but we were setting up for about 30 minutes before.
Make sure you link us if you want.
Yes, do you want me to put your LinkedIn
Yeah.
in? Let me put your LinkedIn
Yeah, guys,
in.
connect with me on LinkedIn if you need any help. or advice about the industry that we want to get into. I obviously specialize in Python developers and data engineers, but we also run a team of data scientists, and yeah, I'm quite happy to chat with anyone really and spread some knowledge. Hopefully.
Sounds good. And I've got some more questions coming in. Just going to say, when we finish the stream, you can then put comments at the bottom of the video. If you put your comments at the bottom of the video when the stream finishes, I will reply and answer them. So do that. Just copy and paste them from the chat, and we will answer them today or tomorrow. I'm just going to share Kate's LinkedIn, and so you can connect with her, ask her questions, and the rest. Error, try again. Why can't I post a link?
You can just. It's not letting you. You can just put my name.
Okay, so search
No.
that's right. Okay, on LinkedIn, search for Kate. How do you pronounce it? Samol. Okay. And I'd like to say a big thank you to joining us on this live stream.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for taking up some
Hopefully it's been enjoyable.
Thanks for taking mine.
That's true. It was good give and take, I think. Right?
I think that there's a two-way street, right? We've got to get better at this because developers and recruiters, the whole tech industry and recruiters, let's say, it's a difficult thing.
And
really
by having those hard discussions, I think it brings it together. And you were by yourself, so really well done. You held your own.
I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way.
Okay, good.
I feel like you guys are definitely in the right mindset. It's all about kind of making that relationship better, and for developers out there as well. So that then when they are, and I listen to people's frustration with recruiters as well, and it's about working it out so it works for everyone involved.
Yeah, and it's got to change. I mean, by hopefully the junior people listening now, when they get into the more senior positions, they will think back. They will think about some of these things as well. They will reflect back on some of this stuff. So by all means, reflect back in the future. And
they're interested now. Oof. Yeah, they'll go places.
It's a great time as well to get into tech space. If you're not in tech already, definitely get into it. It's really good. But that's another discussion, another time.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you very soon for a live stream. We've got some open source live project reviews coming soon.
You're away on you for a bit.
Wait a couple of weeks, so it'll be a bit quiet. But we'll chat to us in the comments. Leave us comments and we will definitely reply. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good night.
And switch to the holding one, so sound is off. Even if it is still live streaming, it's off. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.